We've got some weird things going on in the choices here. The one that stands out most to me, the one I'm probably going to check first, is choice C, because it has the simplest punctuation mark, the period. So that's a good sign. I do see a dash, and it looks like there's another dash right here in the sentence. Now, that could be a good sign. That could mean that, yeah, I need two dashes, but I don't know. But I'm definitely thinking about maybe C first, A second. Let's just kind of see how C goes. I'm checking to see if there's a sentence before that period and a sentence after it. So let's look at before. The city of Amsterdam partnered with consultants to develop Public Eye, an ethical AI-powered crowd monitoring system. Yeah, that's a sentence, okay. Analyzing video streamed from cameras in heavily touristed areas, the AI algorithm determines crowd sizes without, in the interest of protecting individuals' privacy, retaining the footage. That's a sentence too. So honestly, right there is probably enough for me to select C. I'd still look at some other things, but just to point out before we go on, how do I know there's a sentence there? Because the AI algorithm determined crowd sizes without retaining the footage. So there's an interruption in the middle of that sentence, but there's also an intra clause at the beginning of it. So that's annoying, that's weird, but that's pretty common for hard punctuation questions. I would try to look at choice A just to double check I'm not missing something here. The city of Amsterdam partnered with consultants to develop Public Eye, an ethical AI-powered crowd monitoring system. Okay, analyzing video streamed from cameras in heavily touristed areas. I see the problem. The double dash is used to insert an interruption into a sentence. So if we were to assume that choice A was correct, that would mean we can assume that this whole thing in between those dashes can go away. So that gets rid of all this up to the word system. If that's not there, what am I left with? The city of Amsterdam partnered with consultants to develop Public Eye, analyzing video streamed from cameras in heavily touristed areas. The AI algorithm determines crowd sizes without retaining the footage. It was good up until that part, right? Up until this comma here. Because we could remove that part with the double dash and then add that analyzing clause after the first sentence. That's not wrong to do that. We would need a comma to do it. But with the dashes there, the dash kind of replaces the comma, so that would all be okay. The problem is the comma after that is now attaching another complete sentence. And you can't do that. You can't attach complete sentences to other complete sentences with commas. You need something else. You need stronger punctuation, like a period, like a semicolon, or you need a conjunction along with that comma, so a word like and. So this is meant to confuse us because not only do we have this kind of common SAT trap where there is a clause that could either end the first sentence or begin the second sentence, but there's also this dash clause in there that really tempts us or at least distracts us from the other punctuation things going on. Plus, I've seen people say this. They say it in my comments. I've seen other tutors say it in videos. They're just wrong. I've heard people say if there's a dash in the sentence and a dash in the choice, it's always the second, it's always the right answer that you pick the second dash. No, here's evidence of that, right? And that's a great example of the SAT, knowing what you know, knowing how you think, and then finding ways to kind of mess with you. And they're going to do that in all sorts of places. There are definitely rules that I've kind of said, like the 3 versus 1 rule for verb tense stuff, where I'm like, yeah, this is the way it goes. Always choose the one that's different. But I tend to throw in one little extra line, which is just be prepared. They might break this rule at some point, and they have broken that rule. And here, the same thing about the double dash rule is it isn't a rule. If you have no idea what's going on in these complicated sentences, the double dash thing might be pretty reliable. You'd probably get 9 out of 10 of those questions right, and that's great. That's a high success rate. But if you need to get the 10th one right, then you can't just blindly follow that rule. You have to kind of go through a process. At least my process here started with something that is non-negotiable. A period must separate 2 complete sentences. If I have 2 sentences, that's it. That is maybe the only rule in the SAT that is completely non-negotiable. A period separates 2 complete sentences. So if they ever come up with an exception to that, definitely let me know. But it's not going to happen. That is where we want to start because it is the easiest task, the most clear task for us to try to accomplish.